Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. Today I have a layout process for you featuring a stamp bleed technique. So this layout is a part of the Load Mini Challenge, which is a layout a day for a week. And the prompts for today are about how do you connect with nature and to use some stamping. So I am going to pull out some Vicky Bouton products for my stamping. And I'm going to use this circular photo selfie that I took of myself lying on the grass. And I'm going to surround myself with these floral stamps, and I'm going to show you how this bleeding technique works. But before I do that, I need to give myself some space because I am going to journal around my photo in a circle, and that's going to be a design element to this layout. So I've got my title set up here, and it took me a little while to find the right alphabet that I wanted, but I chose something colorful with some floral print to it. And before I get to my journaling, I know I need to make sure my pen is waterproof because I'm going to be doing a lot of wet media on this. So I do keep that title on a bit of a plastic sheet so that I can bring it in and out of the picture and make sure I have room to journal all the way around where that title is going to sit. And once I am ready for my mixed media, I take everything else off my page so nothing gets wet and damaged. And then I do some test swatches on the exact same paper I'm going to use with various inks. And for the most part, I end up going with Distress Oxide inks in Evergreen Bough, Mustard Seed, and Marigold, I believe, are the three colors I end up using. And I am stamping around the edge, and then I am spritzing this paper with water, and that's going to activate the ink, and then I can tip my paper and slide it around so that I can get some puddles. And I will slow this down a little bit for you in a moment. When I am ready to change colors on my stamp pad, I don't just wipe off all that ink right away. I will go ahead and stamp off on a scratched piece of paper and save that paper for some other project in the future. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at this stamp process. So here I am testing out another color, and I pull out a Distress Oxide, and that's the one on the right, and I decide it has too much orange in it, and I don't have an oxide in a different red or pink. So I pull out an older Stampin' Up product, and there you can see once you spritz this ink, as long as it's a dye-based ink of some sort. Now the Distress inks are kind of a hybrid ink, so they behave a little bit differently, but anything that's technically dye-based will reactivate with water and create more of a flowing effect. You'll get less crisp images, and depending on how much water you add, you can even bleed out the entire image. So with that section, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to spray my paper directly. Now, all those layers underneath are dry at this point, so when I spray on top, there's not a lot of action going on. And then I'm going to stamp in that water, and it's going to wet the ink on my stamp, and that's going to give me a chance to get a couple of different stamps out of that same ink, and that's going to create blurry images for me. And if I want them to blur even more, then I can go ahead and add some more stamping. And as that water starts to spread stuff around, if I decide it's getting a little too blurry, I can soak up a little bit of that excess water to stop the process along the way. And that gives me a little bit more control over this. Now, this is definitely one of those techniques where you have to be willing to let things happen that happen, and just know that it's going to do different things. And as you can see, I did layer up pink on top of yellow, and so that's giving me some orange tones in there. So know that when you're doing this technique, if you're going to layer things up, you're going to want to think about your color layers as you go. All right, because I do have a little bit of orange going on there, I do want to make sure I kind of balance out the pink across different sections of the page. So I am trying to kind of fill in a little bit of white spaces with extra pink so that color is showing up a little bit more around the page. All right, I take a look at the page and I try to decide if I feel like things are finished, and I see another area where I could add a little bit more pink. And I am overlapping those green leaves just a little bit. There I made too much water, so what I did is soaked it up, and I can go ahead and just stamp over that same area again. And because this technique is, on the messy side, It's not going to matter if I don't stamp exactly over that previous image perfectly, because none of this is going to be crisp anyway. So that gives me some wiggle room in getting the colors where I want them to be and getting enough detail in my stamping that it makes me happy. So I am working on Vicki Boutin's foundation mixed media paper for this. If you work on a watercolor paper, that ink will lift and flow even more easily. And it just depends on what you want, because you can see those green leaves there are much more crisp in certain areas, and that's because the ink will absorb into the paper and some of it will not be able to move. Okay, I am moving on to my title. I got that stuck down. It's slightly crooked. I couldn't fix it. Oh well, I'm moving on to my embellishing. So I have got a stack of Vicki Boutin supplies here from not the Color Study collection, the previous one, Storyteller? The Storyteller collection. So I'm just sorting through and looking for bits and pieces to create a few clusters that I think will work for this layout. And I did think I would have more choices in here, but what I forgot to keep in mind was that a lot of the Vicki Boutin embellishments are on the large side, and so because my journaling took up more room than I thought it would, I didn't have as much room for embellishing, but that's okay. I found things that will work, and so I'm creating some clusters. I'm sure to add different layers to my clusters and different textures to my clusters. So I've got some chipboard, I've got some cardstock stickers, I have some washi stickers, and then later on I'm going to be adding a whole bunch of, what's the word? Words today are hard. Sequins, there we go, that's the word. Okay, up here at the top I am creating a little banner cluster to go with that lovely word, and because those banners were not as long as I wanted them to be, I can hide a cut in those banners behind the letters and then cut them and slide that extra piece down so that it looks like they're as long as that word is there. So I like to use that technique often. And now I'm adding the tiny bits to this layout with a couple of butterfly stickers, and here is where I pull out my sequins. And I've got a mixture of Wild Whisper sequins and Spiegelmom scrap sequins. I put away my Vicki Boutin stuff because I decided I've pulled out what I want from that. And I have a little tray that I'm going to work with my sequins, and I really am going to hand place every single sequin on this page. Sometimes I will just kind of literally throw sequins on a page and then glue them down where they lay, but because I am picking and choosing colors out of various sequin packs, I am getting a little fussy here. This did take me a while, but I am speeding up the process so you don't have to watch me do too many sequins. And then I've got them all glued down. I decided that I needed a few things around my title to help pull those sequins together with my title, and also I had some gap around my title. And we'll fill those in with the date later. And then I realized that it is really hard to tell where my journaling starts on this layout, so I'm going to add some arrows right under my title that point exactly to the beginning of the journal, of the journaling. And then I'm going to add a date onto that bigger arrow, and hopefully that flow of information will lead people to the beginning of the journaling to be able to read. Now it is a little complicated to read around in a circle, but I did this journaling a lot for the design element, so that's okay with me. So that is the layout for today. I hope you enjoyed this ink bleeding technique. Now I often do that technique with a paintbrush instead of a spray bottle where I have more control, but this was a fun way to kind of just let go and play with color. If you got something helpful out of this video, I'd appreciate if you could give it a like because that helps the YouTube algorithm. And I will be back next week with more process videos for you. I hope you'll join me again.